I asked Joanne if she would be our teacher and guest speaker tonight, and we talked about a topic, and she's going to talk about soul writing for about a half hour, and then I have paper and pen for everybody to engage in soul writing. So, Joanne, would you take it away?
Okay, thanks, Dick. I appreciate it. Thank you for the invitation. It's very nice to meet all of you. Um, for those of you that are familiar with Edgar Cayce, I think you all are. He used the term inspirational writing in his readings back in the 30s and 40s. And I decided when I got my master's from Atlantic University, which you know is part of ARE, that that was going to be my thesis was going to be on inspirational writing. Um, the basic definition of what it is if you think of prayer as you talking to God, meditation is God talking to you, soul writing is you taking notes. It's a written form of meditation, is basically all that it is. Um, you go into a meditative state, you do some deep breathing, you do some relaxation, you put the pen down on the paper, and then you get in touch with God, your higher self, your angels, whoever you have access to. I like to think of our spirit guides the way you would think of a telethon panel, and they're all just kind of sitting there waiting for us to get in touch with them because that's their job is to offer us guidance to answer any question that we have. And what I found about soul writing is the beauty of it is that you can ask any question at all, any question about what's bothering you, or if you want, I'll go through all of the ways you can apply it to your life, but you'll get an answer in writing, which is something that you'll be able to refer to uh, going forward. So it's a profound connection to the divine within you, and it's something that everybody can do. You don't have to have any special talent, skill, or ability to do this. Cayce said it was our God-given right to be able to access this information. So as I said, I took this as my thesis. I was very fortunate that I got to work with the late Dr. Henry Reed, who was my mentor, and he's written on this topic. He wrote about it in one of his books. Um, but I think most people think of this kind of channeled writing by the other term that's very familiar to most people, which is automatic writing. And Cayce was adamantly opposed to anybody using automatic writing. There's some case studies, case histories in Hugh Lynn Cayce's book, Venture Inward, in which people trouble using automatic writing, and they had to come and to the ARE and have people help them because there. And so the reason ARE is against automatic writing is because of the fear of possession. And I'll explain that a little bit later about how to avoid all of that and what's the difference between the two. When I did my study, uh, I noticed that if I typed in inspirational writing in Amazon, I would get all Christian genre books. If I typed in automatic writing, I would get all books that had to do with the occult. And I thought, gee, neither of these definitions is what Mr. Cayce had in mind. So I was thinking about it. I thought maybe it needs a new term. And so I thought, well, this is writing that's coming from your soul. It's coming from above, coming through you, and then out in your hand to the paper. And so I thought, I'll just name it soul writing. So that's what I have done. And in doing my research, I was looking at the difference between when you're doing soul writing as opposed to doing automatic writing. A lot of people think that they're doing automatic writing. And usually that's exactly what they're doing, but there is a subtle difference between the two. For instance, when you're doing soul writing, the message is coming from within you, from within your soul out to the paper. When you're doing automatic writing, it's coming from an outside source, um, something outside of you, which is the whole reason that ARE was against it because of the idea if it's coming from outside of you, there's a higher chance of possession. You always do meditation before you do soul writing. You don't do meditation before you do automatic writing. Most people just grab the paper and pen and off they go. With soul writing, you're totally aware of what you're writing. It isn't a secret. You have a sense of the words as they're coming out. With automatic writing, you generally don't have any awareness of what you're writing. Most people have to wait until the writing is done and then go back and read it so that they would know what they wrote. With soul writing, you consciously watch the writing proceed, but with automatic writing, sometimes you don't have any control of your hand.
Right.
That happened to me once. I felt a difference. You could feel the shift of energy going through your arm sometimes. And I started writing very small, up at a diagonal, and I thought, this isn't right. These are the wrong, I'm with the wrong folks. So, so I had to reinforce the prayer of protection. That's one of the other differences. With soul writing, you always say a prayer of protection. Surround yourself with white light before you do any of the writing. With automatic writing, usually that's omitted. You don't do any kind of prayer beforehand. With soul writing, your handwriting is basically the same as it is in a conscious state, but with automatic writing, your handwriting is definitely different. And the last difference between the two is that in soul writing, your soul is being guided. You're being gently nudged. Spirit is just offering you a suggestion. Whereas with automatic writing, often you're being commanded to do something, that it's impelling you to do something. And by the way, with all of this, what I'm going to tell you tonight, I have a handout. If you want it, I'm happy to send it to you. Just send me an email. It's joannedimaggio.com, and I'll be happy to send it to you. So let's look at all the ways you could apply it to your life. One way is if you want to enhance psychic abilities. So, meditation, relaxation, and creative visualization are really essential elements of the process of soul writing. And any one of these, whether you use them alone or together, enables you to reach a higher level of mind and tap into your inherent psychic abilities. So, if you want to ask spirit about how you can enhance your psychic abilities, you can use the soul writing to do that. My favorite way of using it is through past life exploration. I am a past life researcher and therapist. I've been doing this work since 1987, and I've written 7 books on the topic. And I do private regressions with people. And often I'll add the soul writing at the end of the regression. And why do I do that? Because the soul writing usually answers questions that were not answered in the regression, or it'll give you the guidance that you need. Because a lot of people will say, well, this is real interesting, Joanne, but what am I supposed to do with this information about a past life? And there's guidance that's, why did spirit want you to see that particular past life? So you could use it that way. It could give you the backstory. You can't get everything in an hour session. So, there might be a little bit more information that spirit could kind of sandwich in there and send that to you. I have used the soul writing. You can have your past life aspect, in other words, who you were in a prior lifetime. You could ask that energy to come forward and write their life story for you if you wanted. Frank DeMarco, who's a wonderful writer, he had founded Hampton Roads Publishing Company, and he wrote a book called Chasing Smallwood. And it was fascinating because he wrote about a man named Joseph Smallwood who lived during the Civil War. And turns out Joseph Smallwood was had been who Frank was in that lifetime, and they had this ongoing conversation about life in that time period. It was absolutely incredible. So I have had I do teach that when I teach soul writing, how to do that, how to have a conversation with your own past life aspect. So it's really kind of fascinating. You can use it to get guidance on specific topics. You could almost create your own metaphysical encyclopedia. Oh, I want to know what spirits take on meditation, or what spirits take on a soulmate, or whatever question you might have. You can think about that question, put the pen down on the paper, and just ask. What is I'm trying to think of a good example. What is trust? what is love? What is peace? You can ask any kind of question you want to get an answer. You can use it in various art forms. For those of you who are artists or composers or uh, painters, or if you're a poet, you can use the same method and then apply it to your particular genre. When I was doing research for my book, I found that I did a book about the Beatles and spirituality. And I found that Paul McCartney and John Lennon both used a form of soul writing, the process of soul writing, which I'll get into next, uh, to write some of their music. So did Paul Simon from Simon and Garfunkel. And as far as writers are concerned, contemporary writer Stephen King uses the same sort of process. And when I say process, I mean what they're doing is they're going into a meditative state and they're getting guidance outside of themselves. So it's almost like, where does inspiration come from? This is their inspiration, this is their muse. Um, so you can use it when you're composing, when you're writing, when you're doing sculpture, when you're sewing. I mean, it's all kinds of things you could apply this for. Um, you can use it to explore esoteric philosophies. A couple of years ago, well, more than a couple of years ago, before I wrote my book on soul writing, I was wondering how many universal laws are there? Because I had heard anywhere from 25 to 200. And I thought, I wonder what's the real number? How many universal laws are there? So I thought, oh, I'll ask Spirit. So I sat on my front porch with my journal and I said, how many universal laws are there? And I also asked, what's the difference between universal laws and the Ten Commandments? Well, I got a 2-week course. Every day, a different teacher would come through for me and write about a particular commandment, what why it was written that way, what it meant at the time, and how to apply it now. So it was really quite fascinating because that's when I learned that I had different teachers coming in to write with me depending on the question that I asked. So the more profound the question, the more profound the teacher that'll come through for you. Um, One of the things that I really found fascinating about that particular study was the sentence. And with soul writing, what you're going to find is that in the beginning you're going to get like a greeting, hello, we're glad to be with you kind of thing. The meat of the message comes in the middle, and then at the end it sort of backs out and says that, we love you, we're with you always. But what I got, I asked that question about what's the difference between the Ten Commandments and universal laws. They replied, there is no universal law that begins thou shalt not. Now, I never would have thought of that on my own. In my conscious state, that never, and you know what? I went to 12 years of Catholic school, so it was like, oh my goodness, what is this? So anyway, that was how I knew that this was coming from a different source, that it wasn't me, because it was me, but it was me from a higher perspective. You can also use soul writing as a tool for psychoanalysis and healing. Um, I was in the University of Virginia. I live in Charlottesville. I was in the University of Virginia Medical Center, the Cancer Center, a couple of years ago, and I'm walking down the halls and I'm seeing these posters for journaling classes for cancer survivors. And I thought that's the perfect use for this. It's because, you really could work out all of your feelings about your illness, or you could also use it, like I said, for psychoanalysis. You could use it to try to work out relationship issues or friendship issues or sibling issues. All of those could be, you could look at them in greater depth when you're writing about it. I usually use it now for soul's growth when it just gives me invaluable information to get me unstuck, because many times I feel like I don't, I've been doing this a long time, but there are times that I'm like, why am I doing it again? What is this? What should I be doing? And so it always gives me um, a way of understanding the road that I'm on, the journey of my soul, so I could see where I am at any given time. And the final way of using it is to be in service to others. Um, I think there was a Cayce reading that said you won't get to heaven without being on the arm of somebody that you've helped. Um, there's a uh, when I did my research project, I chose to do an aspect of the research using the companion mode of healing, which is based on shamanic journeying, in which it's like distant healing. So in other words, if you have permission, always ask permission if you're going to do the writing on behalf of somebody else. um, you can zero, they can, what I had my group do is they would write a message in soul writing, give it to their partner. The partner would read it and meditate on it, and then ask for an answer on their behalf. So it's healing on behalf of somebody else. It's a really powerful method of healing, and it's something that there's been a lot of work in the area of psychiatry and psychology in which they've applied this particular method of healing using the soul writing. Now, how do you do it? Um, I'm going to go through this with you, and then we can try it. I came up with like 12 different steps. I didn't mean for it to be 12 steps. It just turned out that way. Uh, but you don't have to do all of them every single time. But I think if you're a beginner, it helps to go through them one by one. First thing is to find a sacred place. So you can create your own sacred writing space. Any place that you feel in your home is good for meditating, that you feel connected to spirit. Then just always go to the spot. When you do this after a while, you can do it anywhere. I've done it on an airplane. I have done it on a balcony at a hotel. I've done it in a conference at one point. Um, so you can do it anywhere, but in the beginning, it helps to do it in the same place all the time. Set the stage so you can surround yourself with items that remind you of your spiritual journey. So this could be bells or totems or candles or crystals, whatever artwork, whatever you feel reminds you of your journey. Cayce suggested you do it at the same time in the same place. So it's like making a date with spirit. You say, okay, I'm going to write every night at 9:30. And so that's telling spirit, meet me at 9:30 because I'll be here with pen in hand. And it helps when you do the same time, same place, because, we're creatures of habit, right? So if you start to establish any kind of a ritual like that, the writing will come sooner for you. As to whether you use a pen or the keyboard, I prefer the pen, using a pen, only because it's slower. So there's a more definition in the writing. You could feel the energy going through your arm and out your hand onto the paper. Um, if you choose to do it on the keyboard, and I have done it on the keyboard, if you choose to do that, it's really important that you keep your eyes halfway open so that because if you shift over just, a little bit, you'll get all gibberish. You won't be able to read any of it. I like to do it by hand and transfer it to the computer. So that's something you can choose to do. I tell everybody try both ways. Like I like to write with a fountain pen. I just love the way that the ink forms on the paper, and I write in a journal. A matter of fact, I just published a soul writing journal. Just came out within the last couple of weeks, and it has excerpts from the book all through it to just as inspiration. Um, Meditation is key. You can't do this without meditating. If you do, you'll stumble into the automatic writing world, and we don't want you to do that. So just enter however you meditate. There's no one way of doing it. However you do it is fine. But the other essential part of it is to say a prayer of protection. So I like to have people picture themselves in a bubble of light, totally surrounding you. You're floating in this bubble. Nothing can penetrate the bubble. You're in the divine light of God and you're safe. Um, I always say a prayer. I asked for a prayer in soul writing and I got one, and I'll share that with you a little bit later. And then focus on a question. You can ask about anything, anything at all. You can ask and get an answer from soul writing. If you don't have a question, you can just say, "Do you have a message for my highest and best?" So people ask about all kinds of things. They want to know about, why am I having trouble with my finances? Or is this the right job for me? Or, if they're having relationship issues, you can ask about that. What is this root cause of the problem between me and my sister or my brother or my parents or whatever? Um, so just really think about the question you want to ask. You could write it at the top of the page, and then focus on it. Make it like a mantra. You're just saying it over and over again. And then get ready to write. Just have the pen poised over the paper. Have it rest loosely in your hand. I tell people that are new to this that the easiest way to get the writing started is to make ovals. Just making ovals. That's how I started. I actually started doing the soul writing when I was about 9 years old, and I didn't know that I was doing it. Um, and then I did it again in college, and then I did it again. Um, oh, right after Shirley MacLaine came out with Out on a Limb, when her show was they made it into a miniseries on ABC back in 1987. Um, a friend of mine and we were like waking metaphysicians, I guess you might say. And so, when you first open to this, you're just like a little sponge. You just can't get enough. You want this, that. So she had a Ouija board, and so I didn't know any better. So we started to play with the Ouija board. And I thought, oh, Parker Brothers makes it. They sell it at Toys R Us. How bad could this be? Well, it was very bad. It opened us up to some not so cool energies. Um, and then I found out that ARE had listed automatic writing and Ouija board as the top two no-nos when you want to develop your psychic ability. So on that, I thought that was really interesting. But anyway, while we were sitting there, I thought, well, I'm just going to write the letters that my friend and her husband were getting. So I'll be the secretary. I'll just record this. Well, then I just, started doodling. And then out of the doodles came an E and then an L and then an M. And I started getting actual words being formed. Of course, that was automatic writing, it wasn't soul writing, but the same process could work for both. I mean, in terms of, you know, just getting the writing started. Some people will only get a word here, a word there. Others will get a phrase, and others will get full sentences. They'll go on and on and on. But generally, everybody gets something. And most of the time, the message is something that only you understand because Spirit's talking directly to you, to your soul. It's coming from your soul. Cayce said to wait before you read what you've written. Um, that's not always possible. I always read what I've written. Actually, I know what I'm writing when I'm writing it. Um, but writing, it's like fine wine. It ages really well. And if you put the date at the top of your page when you're doing this writing, you could go back to it and you could kind of see like what was going on in my life then, that when I got this message from Spirit. So it's really kind of interesting to review it a few weeks, months, even years later. I go back to some of the stuff I've written 20 years ago, and it just absolutely amazes me how it all unfolded. And then my final suggestion is to keep your writing safe. Um, this is like going into a therapist's office and you're lying on the couch and you're working through some issues that are very personal to you. And the things that you're writing, if somebody else picked it up and read it, they may not understand at all. They misconstrue what you've written, and that could lead to some problems. So I always suggest, if you have a message that's generic enough and you want to share it with the world, go ahead and do that. Um, but most times I say keep it safe, keep it to yourself. Your life will change after you start doing this. There's no doubt about that. I tell people too, if you're going through a really difficult time, soul writing can help. It can offer you it can lessen your anxiety. It can offer you some comfort. But it's not a cure-all for everything. So you may need to supplement it with some professional help. I always say also don't try to do it if you're under the influence of drugs, tobacco, or drugs of any kind, or alcohol, because if you're doing something that raises your metabolism or lowers your metabolism, it'll be a little bit more difficult to get a true message in the soul writing. It's not unusual to feel tired when you first start writing. That's normal, but as you do it more and more, it'll actually start to energize you. It does me. And like I said, if you don't know what to ask, just put it in the hands of the divine and say, "Do you have a message for me?" And then finally, watch for any synchronicities that start happening. Because once you've opened this door, things will start to happen because you're working in cooperation with spirit. I think the one thing that most people in my soul writing classes have said to me is that they have felt they finally understood that they're not alone. They're never alone. That even though they can't see anybody around them, the spirit is always with them. And they're as close as the pen in their hand and the paper. So that's a great comfort. It's a comfort if you're dealing with an illness, a chronic illness of some sort, to be able to work that through. If you're dealing with grief, you can work that through. If you're dealing with loneliness or whatever, there's always somebody on the other side. I like to think of soul writing as a 24/7 phone home card. That when we were little souls, we're ready to come to the earth plane to start our lives. And spirit says, wait a minute, before you go, I'm tucking this little phone home card in your book bag here. And then we forget we have it. But the idea is if you get lost, if you need help of any kind, spirit is always, always there for you. So I have found it to be the most transformational tool I have ever encountered in all the years I've been doing this work, and I've been doing it a long time. And it's powerful, and it doesn't cease to amaze me. Um, when I do a soul writing session with somebody after a past life regression, for instance, they will turn to me and say, "Oh, you don't know, a burden's been lifted that I've had for years and years and years, and I didn't know how to get through it." So I'm very humbled by that, by the reaction of people to learning how to do this. I will say too that people that are more left brain, that are more analytical, they have a little bit more difficult time doing the writing than those that are more right brain, the more creative people. But everybody can do it. Like I said, I did a class in Austin, Texas once, and there was an attorney in the audience, and she we went through the exercise, and she did, and she just burst into tears. She said, "I didn't think I could ever write like this." So it's quite beautiful. And when you write, you sometimes you're going to say to yourself, "Who actually did this writing?" Because I don't write like that. And you'd be in good company because there's a lot of very famous, people and composers like Mozart and Tchaikovsky, Puccini, and writers like Byron and Keats and just so many people have written about the process, and the process is exactly what I just explained to you. So I would like to open it up and see if any of you have any questions for me before we do a very brief soul writing. Anybody?
And I put the camera on gallery. Here in the room, we have, I'm not sure I identified people. There's Mitzi, Tom, Kathy,
Hi. Hi, Kathy.
Claire,
Hi, Claire.
Dawn,
Hi,
Francis, and myself.
Francis.
And
And you.
on
Yes.
Zoom, we have on the top right is Joanne, and beneath Joanne is Pam, and in the very center is Kathy, and on the left column is
Lynn Krajenki.
Lynn, and at the very bottom is Anne Marie. So
Wonderful.
if you have a question, would you raise your hand on Zoom, and then we'll give you the floor. I don't see any hands here in the room. Do we have any question? Dawn has a question. I'm going to put
Okay.
on Dawn.
Okay. Hello. What's your question?
Yeah, I'm one of those left brain people. Okay. And my association with trying to meditate is the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. So my question is there some extra energy that comes into that process when you take pen in hand and put it to paper rather than sitting in a quiet place and trying to get the spirit within you to come out? Because that's really, basically, that seems to be the difference or the starter point between sitting and meditating and doing this writing process. So is there something,
Mhm.
maybe it says, okay, I'm ready, here we go. And it's a
I
focal.
think yeah, I think
That
that's
makes
the
sense?
difference. I think if you send out the intention, and you let spirit know, I would like, I would like your guidance on X, Y, and Z. This is why you ask the question. And then you just wait for the answer. So the meditation and the prayer protection, the surrounding of white light is really important. And then, like I said, it's a written form of meditation. So when you're meditating, you might get a message in your mind that spirit wants to share with you. But when you're doing the soul writing, that message translates into words on a piece of paper.
So I'm opening up a different channel for the activity
Yeah.
to take place
Right.
by
It,
putting that pen in my hand. Okay.
right. It's the same. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's the same channel, basically the same channel. It's just, well, you know what? Because soul writing is channeled, you're channeling your higher self,
I understand.
channeling spirit or an angel or whatever you call it.
But I
It's
think for the difference between the automatic writing and the soul writing, because it was all the same to me.
oh, really?
Well,
I,
I've never tried either.
yeah.
So just
Yeah.
by,
Well,
yeah,
the biggest difference is the with the automatic writing is the lack of the prayer,
right.
lack of the meditation, and then it comes across. Also, with the soul writing, when you get a message, it's going to be in the collective we. Like we are with you always in love and in light. With automatic writing, it's usually the singular I, and that's when you know that you're with the wrong folks.
Okay.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
I think I can answer your question, Dawn, when you mentioned that you didn't know the difference between the two. Because I work with both. And I bought Joanne's book back in 2012, and I have followed her book all along.
Okay.
And I've had experiences with the automatic writing, and I've also done what she described in her book, how to do it with the meditative writing. And the automatic writing, I can give you an example of it. I woke up one morning, it was 1994, and I said, "Oh my goodness, my aunt is here." I have an aunt who's a missionary in India. She was having Alzheimer's, but she was with me. I could feel her around me.
Okay.
And I said, "Uh-oh, I better get my pen and pencil."
Yeah.
And I started writing. Now, this was automatic writing, what I call automatic writing. I kept writing and writing and writing and writing. When I finished and I waited a while, then I read it. It was her vocabulary, it was her words. And I said to myself, she has to be dead. She couldn't come through unless she was dead. And a few days, I knew right then and there she was dead. Okay, so a few days later, I got a letter from my mom stating that she was dead and what the funeral was all about. Now, that
Okay.
was one side of it. And the other side of it is when we do it the way Joanne is describing it. She just described it, where you do it from the soul. This is my interpretation of it because of what happened to me.
Okay. I can see that clearly. But, before this program, I've never made a differentiation between the two. Never
I
needed.
know, and I had a difficult time too.
Yeah.
I had a very difficult time differentiating between Joanne's definition of writing and Cayce's, because he has a different word than Joanne uses sometimes.
Yeah, he used inspirational writing, but like I
Yeah,
mentioned,
that was
because
confusing to me. Yeah,
but because it doesn't mean the same thing in 2025 that it meant in 1935.
of course
That's
not.
why I
Of course
changed.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I just thought I would say that maybe that would help Dawn.
Okay. Appreciate it. Thanks, Joanne.
Okay. Do you want to try it?
Sure.
Okay. All right. You all have paper and pencil
Do.
or
Uh-huh.
whatever? All right. So I'm going to lead you in a meditation, and then I'll give you a few, I know we're pressed for time. I'll give you a few minutes to do the writing, and then we'll come back and then we can share if you got something or didn't get something. Okay. So go ahead and close your eyes. I'd like you to just begin to breathe deeply and exhale ever so slowly, ever so comfortably. Just breathe deeply and relax, settling into a sense of great peacefulness. Just let go and relax. And as you're breathing deeply and letting go, I want you to visualize that I'm placing a powerful, translucent golden shield of light all around you from head to toe, as if you were floating in a bubble of light. This divine light is protecting you from all outside negative forces, keeping you safe as we work with spirit. To strengthen this shield, I'm going to say a prayer of protection on behalf of all of us. Mother, Father, God, we ask that the divine light that emanates from the essence of your being descend upon us, surrounding us with an iridescent aura, protecting us from all things seen and unseen that are in opposition to our greater good. We ask it, and so it is. All right, so now you're completely protected. I'd like you to just continue breathing deeply and relaxing completely. And as you do, just feel the quietness of spirit enveloping you, taking you to a safe and loving place deep within. Just slow down your thoughts. If something comes into your mind that distracts you, just brush it aside. Return your attention to your breath as you continue to breathe deeply and relax completely. Nothing to think about, nothing you need to do except just be comfortable and at ease. And every part of you is relaxing now, starting with the toes of your feet, moving all the way up your body, all the way up to your head. Your eyes feel tired and heavy. Your jaw and your throat are completely relaxed. Your entire body is relaxed all over in every way, and all tension is gone in your body and mind. And so now you're very open and receptive. Your mind is awake and alert on all levels while your body is gently relaxing. A quietness of spirit fills your body and mind. And together we're going to work to open a channel for successful soul writing. You have the ability to step outside yourself. Just allow the energy of your higher mind, your angel, spirit guide, or source to communicate with you through your hand through soul writing. For this session, just think about a question you'd like to ask about your life. Perhaps it's about a chronic condition you're dealing with, a relationship issue, your career, your family, your finances. If you don't have a question, you can ask about anything or just stay open and receptive and ask Spirit if they have a message for you. So, in just a moment, you'll begin writing. Remember, you have the ability to allow the energy to flow through you and receive inner guidance through soul writing. When you begin the writing, you'll hold your eyes just barely open as you stare blankly at the paper. Keep your pen moving at all times. If you don't get anything at first, go ahead and make those ovals. See if a letter will come out of the oval, and then a word, and then a whole sentence. I will let you go on for a few minutes, and then I will bring you back. So at the count of three, you will begin to write. Number one, number two, number three, begin writing. Oh, all right. It's time to stop writing. Return to full consciousness. So just please close your eyes. Complete the session by thanking the source of your information. Then take your time when you're ready. Slowly open your eyes, coming back ever so gently. Just open your eyes. Recall the situation in the room. Be wide-eyed, awake, feeling alert and at peace. Anybody want to share what they received? This is usually the part of my workshops where everybody gets very quiet. So if you have something you know, or if it didn't work for you, I'm happy to talk to you about that. Or if you did get a message, if you wanted to share it or just share the experience, that would be great. Anybody?
Well, I asked about my granddaughter, who I'm very concerned about her health. And
Uh-huh.
so I got some very good perspectives on the dynamics that are affecting her and why I'm seeing some of the behavior I'm seeing. So I was really appreciative for that.
Oh, that's wonderful. Wonderful. Yeah. Yeah, it's always interesting because they do show you a perspective that normally you wouldn't have thought about, you know, and it's like, oh, now it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, don't have the opportunity. This is personal dialogue stuff going on in her head and between her and her spouse and stuff like that. So they gave
Sure.
really nice, well-rounded perspective for me to be able to grasp, you know, uh,
Good.
the full dynamics that she's working with.
Good. 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 Anybody else?
I wrote
If
down words.
you got words, Dick?
I just decided whatever words came to mind is what I would write down. And so I wrote down a lot of positive, happy words.
Good. Good.
Then I asked about my great granddaughter that's about to be born in February.
Oh,
Um,
wonderful.
we were asking for that soul to communicate her name. And three people received the name Sapphire. So
Oh,
that's what my granddaughter is going to name her daughter, Sapphire, the middle name Blue. So I asked about Sapphire Blue, and I got some more positive words.
yeah, it's interesting. I did the same thing with when my grandson was coming. I told my daughter, I said, I'll ask Spirit why don't you ask him what his name is? Ask that soul that's coming in. And I got a message that his name was Evan Michael. She didn't name him that at all. I mean, my kids they're not into anything that I'm into, so they just kind of dismiss whatever I say about stuff like that. But yeah, it came to me the same way, that just ask the soul what their name is. So yeah, that's wonderful. That's
Well, I didn't
wonderful.
want
It's
to tell her
beautiful.
what I received when I was driving. I asked when I was driving my car, and I received Sapphire. And I asked, what are the qualities of Sapphire that would be that would attribute to this soul coming in? The answer was purity and brilliance.
Yeah.
And so I kept that a secret. Then I talked to my granddaughter and I said, "Did you get any message?" And she gave me a list of names. And I said, "Well, would you mind if I told you the one I got?" And she said, "No, go ahead." And I said, "Sapphire." And she said, "Oh, yeah, well, there was a line from a movie that's been running through my head lately, and it has the word sapphire in it."
Oh.
And then
Hmm.
the mother of her girlfriend, where she's staying in Texas, says sapphire came to her mind over the past week. So three of us were thinking sapphire.
A little soul sending out a lot of messages, isn't she? That's wonderful. It's wonderful. Well, I did want to mention to you that I am going to, if you want to do a deep dive into soul writing, I'm doing a 3-day certification class through the ARE in the end of February. So if you're interested at all, and that's on their website. Uh, Um, 3 days is each one of those areas that I mentioned to you in earlier, we'll be working on those at some depth.
How can we
So
best get in touch with you, Joanne? How can people
Uh, well, you could look at my website, which is joannedimaggio.com, JoanneDimaggio.com. And no, I'm not related to Joe. A lot of people ask me that. And my email is joanne@joannedimaggio.com. I be happy to send you that handout about soul writing if you'd like. And if you want to get on my newsletter mailing, I'm happy to add you to that too.
All right. If you send it to me, I'll distribute it to everybody.
Yes.
I will do that. Definitely. Thank you.
Any last questions or comments?
She was going to send out a list of 12 things. If somebody sent you an email, send it to Dick.
Yeah,
Distribute it widely.
I will send it to Dick and he can send it to all of you. That's fine.
Thank you. All right.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Joanne.
Thank you for inviting me. Yes, I appreciate it. Okay, take care. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Joanne.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Right.
Good night. Thanks, Dick.
You're welcome.